Brother communicated with my girlfriend during Christmas, so I ended my relationship with him. But my parents chose him over me because they like to have the better son on their anniversary. But the payoff isn't that terrific. This is how my brother Kevin and I have gotten along for the past 3 years. I doubt we'll ever be able to make up. Nonetheless, they invited Kevin to their anniversary celebration a few days ago, despite their promise to support me, until Kevin apologized. Kevin 26M and I 30M never received. We didn't have it when we were kids, and we still didn't when we were teenagers. We genuinely loathed each other. We chatted less and were friendlier to one another once we moved out, but we still didn't get along. Then, at our parents' Christmas celebration 3 years ago, he did something we'll never forget. I was accompanied at the time by my girlfriend. We'd been together for about 4 years by that time. I also informed my folks to invite her parents since that night I intended to ask her to marriage. Since we started dating, she had attended all of my family functions with me, so Kevin knew how serious we were about each other. I doubt he realized I was going to ask him to marry me. Even if I hadn't intended for it to happen, it doesn't matter since he had no right to hit on her and attempt to convince her to abandon me. You must be thinking that he and I are no longer speaking because he was able to persuade my girlfriend, but fortunately, my wife is not so foolish. Just minutes after the incident occurred, my wife, Bella, informed me of Kevin's intentions. She stated that he had taken her away while I was speaking with other family members and informed her that he would treat me better than I could, and all she had to do was say yes or drop a hint. It terrified her much, and as soon as I heard out what had happened, I decided to contact Kevin right once. Even though there were a lot of people at the party, I simply needed to vent my frustration, so I confronted him. That resulted in a major battle. Let's be honest, I was startled because we had been so friendly to one another up until then. He had no motive to breach his three-way agreement and make things ugly. He continued repeating he hadn't done anything wrong, even after I informed him I had. He liked Bella, and I liked her vibe and believed she could outperform me. Around that time, the dispute became so heated that I got in his face. We needed to be separated since the dispute was ready to become violent if we weren't. This occurrence was the final straw for me. I informed my parents that I would no longer be speaking with him and would not be attending any of the gatherings he was invited to. That was all I had to say because he had assaulted me and made my wife feel horrible, which was unacceptable. Since then, my parents and the majority of my close family members who witnessed our large argument that day have opted to cut him off since they realized he was wrong. In recent months, however, my parents informed me that he had called out to them and a few other close family members to express his regret for everything. It appears that my parents and these other individuals opted to forgive him and give him another chance to prove that he had changed. The weird thing is that he didn't apologize to anyone else but me, the one he had messed with. He didn't apologize to my wife or myself, which was strange because he had truly angered her that day and should have apologized to her. Even odd, I had no knowledge about all of this until I just discovered that they planned to invite Kevin to their 35th anniversary celebration. As it turned out, I discovered out by mistake while ensuring that everyone on the list who had been invited received an offer. They most likely did not intend to notify me until the day of the celebration. When I noticed Kevin's name on the guest list, I alerted my parents. They informed me that he had reached out to certain family members, including them. They agreed to forgive him when he requested for it a few months ago. He was asked to attend the celebration. They acted as if it was no big issue, although knowing I didn't want to see him. I made it quite plain that if they asked Kevin, I would not be attending. I couldn't forgive what had occurred all those years ago, therefore I hadn't moved on. That is definitely not the case with my wife. That meant they had to pick between inviting me and Bella to the party or Kevin. Obviously, they got into a dispute with me and told me I was making things difficult for them since they had already informed Kevin that he would be welcomed. Following that, it was inconsiderate of them not to send an offer. They also told me I was exaggerating since whatever had happened was finished and I should forget about it. After some back and forth, they gave up when they realized I was going to keep my ground and not attend the party if Kevin was attending. After that, they said that was okay with them. They might not want Bella and me to attend the party because they'd rather have their better son, Kevin, who has recently been good to them. So it seems natural that he wanted to make things right with them. He'd probably been. After. When they stated that, I hung up the phone and never spoke to them again. It happened a few weeks ago, and the party was held at their home in Bella around 2 days ago. I elected to stay at home and watch. We didn't mind, and we had a better time alone, so we resolved not to speak with my parents again until they apologized. Even though they haven't done anything yet, they still believe I'll assist them, despite Kevin's lies. My father appears to have worked from home the day following the celebration, perhaps from his home office. He saw that several documents were gone. These documents were crucial since they included his company's plans for the following fiscal quarter. Financial information, including a list of its most important clientele. This may be disastrous for the corporation if it falls into the wrong hands. He had a duplicate of everything on his computer, but he was worried Kevin would ruin things if he got his hands on these papers. When I thought about it, I couldn't understand why my parents were so certain Kevin had taken the documents. It could have been anyone. They phoned me this morning and begged for my assistance in locating Kevin since they suspected he had taken these materials. When I inquired how they knew for certain, they said that Kevin had probably put his business card on the desk so our father would know what had transpired. Kevin had been working for a competitor of theirs for some months, which was awful for them. This was the pinnacle of commercial espionage. Because Kevin is their son, they did not feel the need to do any background checks. They also had no idea what Kevin had been doing professionally until they asked him about it. They didn't know where he had worked since he had just informed them he was between jobs and then changed the subject. They required my assistance in locating him now that he had taken those papers, since they had attempted to contact him but had received no response. My father was terrified because if these papers were stolen and fell into the wrong hands, which they would, the board might fire him from his position. I didn't understand why they hadn't reported it to the police given that it was theft. I expected them to hold him responsible. However, my mother informed me she did not want to accompany us to the police station because she did not want Kevin to get into too much trouble. She merely wanted to talk to him and get the documents back. Because I didn't get along with Kevin, I didn't understand why they were contacting me. I was the last person who could help them. As a result, I informed him that whatever had occurred to them was really sad and that they should contact the police instead of bothering me. At first, I didn't believe I could assist them, but my mother explained that because of my position, I was the only one who could. As background, I'm a computer security tester, sometimes known as an ethical hacker. Doing the right thing is the most crucial element of my profession. That implies I won't commit any genuine computer crimes. That's what I do. It was really harsh and unpleasant when my mother told me she felt I could hack into his account, find out where he was, and get him to talk to them. Not only were they attempting to take advantage of my position and abilities, but I also recall how disrespectful they were when they stated that they would rather have their better son at the party than me. Now that they're supposed to be better, I had to assist them since the son had lied to them. How beneficial for them. I shouted at them immediately away and told them I was not going to help them since they had made matters worse. They had two options: handle it properly or get in trouble and let Kevin get away with it. I believed I was being fair when I instructed them to contact the cops since Kevin had purposefully left his business card on the desk knowing his parents would not punish him. I thought they were dumb for letting him get away with it. I told them something, but they didn't seem interested. When I realized it wasn't worth speaking with them since I hung up. They were going to keep arguing. I was going to stop them. Then they messaged me, stating they really needed my assistance and wanted to speak with me. I elected to text them back and tell them that I had already said everything I needed to say and that I was not going to break any laws to help them. Then my mother sent me a voicemail in which she cried and said she felt utterly abandoned by both of her boys and couldn't believe I was doing this to them. They assumed that because I was older, I should be the more tolerant man in this situation. They wanted me to know that they didn't want to blame me, siblings, since he was still kin, even though he had done something wrong. I couldn't understand why they were all right with Kevin cheating on them and didn't have the guts to confront him. They were still pleading with me to assist them rather than doing the right thing and contacting the cops. They were too weak to accomplish it themselves and prioritized their family's image over their own. I was so angry that I responded to her voice note by telling her that I didn't feel sorry for them since they deserved it for being so foolish. It was their fault. They didn't believe Kevin. They should have known after what happened to me. That being said, they elected to give him another opportunity, and despite the fact that he had lied to them, They were more concerned with his being a family member than with generating money. It was stupid of them to expect me to feel sorry for them after they refused to stand up for themselves. They got the message. I wasn't going to stand up for them if they weren't willing to do it themselves. I ultimately put an end to it because I couldn't take it any longer. However, they contacted me from another number a few hours later and said it was impolite of me to imply they deserved it when all they wanted was to trust their own child. Because they were parents, they said it was their responsibility to forgive their children when they did wrong, and they would not be mocked for it. They admitted that I had made mistakes as well, but they had always forgiven me. Of course, it wasn't fair of me to suggest that they deserved it because they chose to give Kevin another chance. So I should have told my parents I wasn't going to aid them, and that they deserved it since they believed my brother. Okay, so I blocked the other number my parents had to call to reach me since I didn't want to talk to them. Despite the fact that a lot had transpired, the majority of you in the notes have yet to express their regret to me. They had a lot to say to me, but I'm sorry wasn't among them. You were correct, I don't owe them anything.
I don't have to feel sorry for them or help them out. I told them Kevin was untrustworthy and that I knew everything about him, but they still opted to give him another opportunity. To be fair, they offered me a second chance as well, but what I did was far less horrible than what he attempted. You wanted to know why they gave me another opportunity and let me off the hook for something I'd done wrong. So, when I was just out of college, I was duped. I had just begun generating money and decided to invest it in something. I don't recall what it was, but it didn't work out, and I was duped. Because I still needed to pay my rent and other costs, my parents gave me money for a few months. But I don't believe it was fair for them to associate what I did with what Kevin did, because I wasn't intending to do anything wrong. I just selected the incorrect thing, and I did not want to lose money. Kevin, on the other hand, had done something rather different. He chose to hit on Bella while she was with me, despite knowing it was awful for all of us. My parents realized he wasn't a decent guy. Nonetheless, others had stated that he was the better child. He had been friendly to them for a long time and spent a lot of time with them. They now know exactly why he was acting that way. Despite this, they did not feel the need to apologize to me. They were only attempting to make me feel awful so that I would aid them. Oh, it was not going to happen. My morals and ethics are very essential to me, particularly at work. It was also my decision to stop my aunt. My uncle and other close family members had opted to forgive my brother. Because I noticed they hadn't even inquired why I hadn't attended the party, despite the fact that I had been missing it. While I don't want to seem spoiled, I would have contacted them if I were in their place. But I think this opened my eyes, because I now understand my position in their lives. I'll remember it, so I stopped them. It doesn't matter to me because I'm with Bella. It makes no difference whether I talk to my family or not because, while I used to like them, I no longer believe it is more essential than my own mental and physical well. And if they're unhealthy for me, I don't need them in my life since I prioritize self-care before maintaining connections. My family is at ease. Belle also told me that she's pleased I broke off my parents because she couldn't believe they did the same thing with Kevin, despite the fact that they knew she was very uncomfortable the day he tried to hit on her since he drew her aside and wanted to talk to her privately about such things. He kept convincing her that he was the better choice for her, despite the fact that she informed him she didn't want to talk to him and rather to return to the Christmas party. Even if Bella hadn't been my wife, I would not have forgiven him for that. It's strange and unsettling how people treat women in this way. Furthermore, despite being informed, my parents had no idea that we were the ones who needed an apology. I'm not sure what they were thinking. Most likely, they were not thinking at all. Anyway, regardless of what, Bella and I have determined that we will no longer communicate with my family since it is not worth it. It's been paused for about 4 days, since the last time I spoke with them. They have not attempted to contact me since, but I am confident they will. They'll find a way to make me appear awful, even if I don't ask for aid. It grates on my nerves. I'm mentally prepared for it, and I know what to do if it happens. Change 2. These are the emails my parents sent me today, 3 days after my previous communication. Anyway, I expected them to harass me, but instead, they opted to apologize for everything. They told me they couldn't think straight that day because they were so afraid and anxious that they didn't know what to do. They had no clue how awful things had gotten with me because everything was a haze to them. But they apologized for everything because they understood I didn't deserve to be treated like that. In the email, they stated that before doing anything more, they phoned Kevin one final time and informed him that they had no option but to call the police. They also informed him that they knew who had taken the files but would not take action since they valued their family links and reputation. That's why he placed the card on the desk on purpose to make them feel bad since they knew who did it, but wouldn't do anything about it because they were too concerned with their family ties and reputation. They had now determined that their business was more essential than anything else, regardless of how others felt. He hadn't responded to. They had been debating what to do for a while, but they had finally decided. They only wanted to give him one final chance to return the documents, and nothing awful would happen. Kevin finally responded to the message, telling them they were correct about everything. He did left the card there on purpose since he knew they wouldn't report him to the police, allowing him to avoid trouble. He merely wanted to feel good about himself and know he was correct. He was merely taunting them, as he did not even work for one of their competitors. After receiving that message, my father examined the card more attentively and realized that he hadn't noticed that it was a clear forgery since he was so afraid. They had no reason to party, however, because my brother had devised a bizarre scheme to obtain money from my parents. It found out that the only reason he confessed he was not working for their competition was to inform them that he still had the paperwork with them. He realized he could make a lot of money selling such knowledge to their competitors. They may also give him the same amount of money and have their information back immediately. These people could have gone to the police with this information, but it wouldn't have helped because he'd already sold it to someone else, and their competitors would still have it, making it pointless. They had to decide whether to offer him a large sum of money or recover the stolen information. If they went to the authorities and had him arrested for stealing, the stolen information would most likely still be available to their competitors, something they couldn't afford. But they did not have enough money to pay him the sum he requested, which caused them a great deal of trouble. It wasn't fair to claim they couldn't afford it, but it would disrupt their budgets and maybe deplete their retirement savings. He appeared to be doing this because he had been having financial troubles for a few years, but no one in his family had decided it was time to forgive him or even speak with him. So he picked this method to retaliate against her, and I must admit that he devised a really clever strategy. Regardless, I felt fortunate that I had nothing to do with this, and that my parents had to cope with it. I informed him that after reading that email I forgive them, but I need some space from them right now since I don't believe I want to be with them again so soon. I didn't think they'd take it well. But a few minutes after I sent them the email, they told me they got it, and all they wanted to do was apologize for how they had acted in an inappropriate manner, and they should have recognized Kevin was not the kind guy they thought he was. They also apologized to Bella and stated that they should not have spoken to or treated Kevin as if everything was okay after how he had behaved with them. When they spoke again after a few months, he inquired as to whether they were still dating. He appeared upset when they informed him that they were still together. He's a creep, therefore they should have cut him off again. But since he was present, they didn't. Although they understand that it is not an excuse, they sincerely apologize for what they'd done. The fact that they apologized and got it over with is positive, and I hope things improve for them. No matter what, I believe I will remain away. It's best for my wife and me, and I'm delighted they understand why. I am also staying away. We may be able to improve our friendship at some point in the future, but not right now. 3. Hello everyone. So I have fantastic news. After 2 years of marriage, Bella and I are finally pregnant. We were so pleased that we had to post it here. We found out 4 months ago and only recently announced the news on social media. The last time I blogged here was over 10 months ago, so I haven't spoken to my folks in a long time. However, following that news, they opted to contact me and express their want to reconnect again if we were all right with it. They have respected our space and not attempted to contact us for the past 10 months since we stated that we would speak with them directly if we were ready. But we forgot about it until we discovered we were pregnant. Nevertheless, I wasn't sure if I should accept them back into my life. After considerable discussion, Bella and I agreed that we would attempt to make amends with them before the baby was born. We wanted to put the past behind as we prepared to become parents for the first time. And I saw no reason not to give my parents another opportunity if they demonstrated genuine improvement. I realize this contradicts what I mentioned before about second chances, but I want my child to meet both sets of grandparents. I'd still like to give it a shot even if it doesn't work out. Yes, we are going to try to reunite as a family. They also informed me that paid Kevin the money he requested and recovered all of the material he had taken. They even hired a lawyer to ensure that he didn't keep anything and tried to notify any of their competitors about what he had discovered in the future. He would be in tremendous trouble since it would violate the conditions of the agreement. He can't use it against them anymore, and I don't believe they handled the matter well. But that's their option. Anyway, Kevin is no longer a part of anyone's life, which I feel is a positive development. He really should keep away from our family. Everything will be okay, I am sure. At the moment, all I can think about is how excited I am about being a father. I spend my whole day reading books and being a father, and Bella and I have never been happier. Also, I'm delighted things are improving with my family, and I'm crossing my fingers. It is possible that things will improve.